Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're going to build an Oneida Osprey from scratch. Alright, if you joined me on my last video, you know we did a complete disassembly, and today we're going to put one completely together. Now, full disclosure, I sent this bow to G-String Bowstrings, and I did not tell them what I wanted. I messaged John and I said, I want you to go ahead and do whatever it is you want to do. I don't want to see it until it gets delivered and I got a camera rolling. So here we are. Package is delivered and we're looking forward to seeing what's in this box. Okay, here's the riser. I see a lot of green. And I'm going to guess the rest of this stuff is my machine parts. Yeah, green and black string. Okay. Ah, look at there. Nice with purple. I like the purple. So let's see what these parts look like. Let's just go ahead and dig into the riser. Ooh, I like. Very, very cool. Let's get this out of the way. Very cool. See what it looks like here on our other camera angle. Got kind of a rip to it, a little almost snake skinny pattern. That's going to be a really cool looking bow. Let's see what our powers look like. Now, I don't know about you, but that's going to look pretty tough. So we're going to do this as simple as possible. I'm going to try to show you every step of the way without being, overly boring. So to begin with, there's a handful of things that we're going to need while we put this bow together. Number one is some decent marine grease. Okay, now every little bearing, every little metal on metal moving part is going to get grease. All right, I've got a handful of Q-tips we're going to use to apply the grease. One thing I need that I do not have is a small C-clamp. I need to go get that, but we'll go get it here in just a minute. And the C-clamp, preferably a soft-sided C-clamp with soft jaws, and that will be to push our cams back together. Okay, the very first thing I'm going to do is start piecing together my riser. Now, putting the cams, putting the timing wheels together, and putting my little idler wheels together. Now, on these idler wheels, once again, these come from G-String. Okay. He replaces the plastic part with a machined aluminum part. You still need the center hub off of the original idler wheels, alright? But it sits right in there like that, and you can see how that works. So once again, metal on metal, this is going to get a little grease before we apply it. That little coating of grease will keep everything quiet. So now we've got our idler there. We'll flip it over and put our stainless steel bolt on the other side until there's very little to no play, just like that. Okay, that grease is actually stopping that. So now that we've got our idlers on a riser, we're ready to assemble our cams. Now, as you can see, the cams are slightly different. Okay, one of them has a hole all the way through, and the other one is threaded. All right, the one that is threaded will get this idler wheel. The one with the take up for the timing system in it. All right, we'll just put it on the back. We want our timing screw facing away from the cam, and then just put one little 1/2 inch stainless steel bolt right here through it, and that holds it to the cam. Our other cam, your bolt will go all the way through the cam, through the slot in your timing wheel, that way you can move it back and forth. And since everything's new, it's fairly tight, but here's your adjustment. Now when I go to assemble this, I want this to be right in the center, so I'm going to put it right in the center and I'm going to torque it down. And I'll explain that here in just a second. And before we reassemble everything here, I want to go make sure I put brand new grease on my axles and inside my needle bearings. And put it in here, and I'm going to cover these bearings as much as possible. On your riser, by holding the grip down this way, okay, the cam that has the adjustment in it, right here, our orange 5/32 bolt, will go on the top side, and the orange screw will go on the back side of the riser. Alright, so it's very important when you go to put these cams back together that they line up properly. These two holes are 3/8 holes, okay, and you can take a 3/8 dowel and put it in there and line it up before you press it together. I'm going to kind of skip that. I'm going to line it up just by eye. Since this has been apart a handful of times already, it'll almost fall into the proper slot on its own. But make sure that you get all these little teeth lined up correctly before you go pressing on it. Alright, now let's see if we can get one pressed together here. Take my C-clamp, put a couple pieces of cardboard in here because I can't find my soft-sided clamp, and I want to make sure that my clamp is right over top of the axle. Make sure it's not crooked. And just with soft pressure, I'm going to clamp it down. Now I'm going to watch right in here, and I'm going to make sure that this cam seats properly. All the way until it almost touches the riser. Okay guys, the last thing you need to do after you get your cams completely installed is don't forget to tighten down this set screw. That will lock the cam into the position on the axle and keep it from moving. So we got our timing system started, and I was having a hard time with it. It's been a while since I've done it. It's almost impossible to slide that brass knob in through the wheel and into the center of our take-up knob. Okay, you can run a file and even run a bit down in there if you want to. I was trying to take an Allen and you know, turn it so the timing was just right so I could get it to go in there, and it's just really difficult to do. So the best way that I have found to do it is to pop the take-up knob out, pull it completely out, push your timing cable in through the wheel and out the top, put your brass piece in the timing knob, or in the take-up knob, and then as you pull your slack, line the knob back up and push it down through the hole. Alright? This cable being offset, it's really hard to get it to line up, but we've got her in there now. I can turn it a little bit and it'll take up, it'll start taking cable up. Alright, that's what we want. So now, I can turn my bow over. These cams will be facing in, okay, just like this, towards the grip, both sides. So what I want to do is start bending this around. The one that goes on this side will go right here over top of my idler wheel. Now, here's where a lot of guys will mess up. Alright, you want one cross in this, and you want it to be above the grip. So I'll hold it straight, I'll flip it one time. When I come back on this side, okay. So with our timing system close, we want to make both cams face towards each other. Just about like that. Now I'm going to pinch it, hold it together. It's not easy. It wants to go wherever it wants to go. You're going to have to mess with it and cuss it and everything else. There. Now we got her lined up. We're going to put our two clamp washers down. I'm going to take my bolt and I'm going to put it right back in there. And I just want to get it started right now. I don't want to clamp down on it. I just want to get it started. Okay. Now that looks pretty good. So now I'm going to tighten my system up. As I tighten my system up, I want to make sure that my cams are facing each other. I can tell right now that this one is off just a least little bit. So I just want to go ahead and move it while I still can. And I want both cams to face directly towards one another. Okay, that's pretty close. So what I want to do now, I want to go ahead and I want to lock this timing system down. Again, before we ever lock this down, we want to make sure that our cam is dead center. Okay, I think I can move this without. I want to make sure our adjustment is dead center of the timing wheel. Okay, so now we've got our timing system locked into place. Well, guys, that's that's getting to be a functional riser. We've got a functional timing system. So, hey, let's go on with it. we've got to get our limb completely assembled before we can put it on the bow. So let's go ahead and I'll show you how to assemble this other one, and should have her together here before too long. Okay, so first thing you need to do is look at your power limb. Now, on especially on a shaved power limb, the top of it's going to be flat. Right about here on the back, where the end cap sits, from here to the tip will be tapered. So I can see that the bottom of this limb is tapered. That means that this is the top of my limb, and it will sit right in here like this, which means that I need to put my hinge on top, just like that, and put my outboard on top of that. All right, so one thing at a time. So when you look at your hinge, you want to make sure that where the cable sits on this side, we want that on the bottom. Okay, so we'll set that up just like that. Get us a couple 1 inch pieces of hardware here. I'm going to line up with my hinge. I'll start that side, and I think that was long enough. We'll come in and do it on the other side. I'm going to go ahead and snug these down nice and tight. Now, you want to look right here on the back and make sure that your stainless bolt doesn't stick out inside the hinge any more than a 1/16. All right, these pieces of hardware will vary in length just slightly. As you can see, that hinge doesn't quite close all the way because it's hitting this one bolt. But I like to run an open hinge, so I don't think that's going to be in my way. And what I like to do with saddles, give me another 1 inch bolt here, and I like to take a stainless washer. Since this bolt is going to clamp down on your cable, on your yoke cable, I want the washer to clamp it down on it, and I don't want the head of the bolt digging into it. We've got to have it loose when we assemble later anyway. Now, lastly, will be my powers. So I'm going to turn this over, and on the bottom of the powers, we're going to put this little bar. A lot of guys will call this the nut bar, but in this situation, the hinge itself is threaded, and all the nut bar is doing is distributing the weight, or distributing the load evenly across this power lamb. So even though we call it a nut bar, in this situation it's not threaded. And once again, we want to tighten these down very tight. And then I want to open this up and make sure I may actually file that down just a little bit. But anyway, we want to make sure that our hardware isn't causing any issues and keeping the hinge open. But that's pretty much it. Now, when we put our saddle on, we want the flat part of the saddle to face the front of the outboard. So this triangle actually goes back towards the other two screws. But now it's time to get our cables out. What we're going to do here, you got a blue set of cables, and that's your yoke cables, and your power cable. There we go. Do a few cranks that way it don't fall out. And then I just want to kind of make sure that it's fairly in the center, not off a whole lot. And then we're going to take our power cable and put it right down in there. Okay guys, that right there is a fully assembled limb, and it's ready to go on the bow. And that goes right here on the pivot bar. So I can set that right down in there. Then I can go ahead and put a limb bolt in. Now this limb bolt's already greased. Still had good grease on it from last time. We're just going to run this down. Really no rhyme or reason to it right now. Just to where it'll hold the limb in place while we put our cables on. Okay, so that set of cables is on. Try that, never done it before, but put us a wedge in there while we're messing with this other limb. Might keep those cables in there. All we're doing is just running our bolt down to where it's at an acceptable place so we can start putting our cables together. Now, I will say this is the hardest part because you're trying not to bump the bow, you're trying not to let these cables fall out, and you're trying to hold it all together at once. The hardest one to get in is the one on the back of the cam that's right next to the timing wheel. So I want to try to put it in first. Okay, we got that one in. Now I'll go ahead and work my slack up and pull my slack through the limb here. And then if I didn't get it too tight, I should be able to get it in. There we go. Oh. Okay. There you go. It's in. Not quite settled, but it's in. Alright. So we'll take our purple. Get over top on that side. Take our orange. Over top on this side. Alright, now I pull them back here on our limb, that'll settle that yoke. We can think about putting a string on. At this point right now, the powers, there's not hardly any pressure on the powers. So just by doing a balancing act here, we're holding the bow together. Actually worked out pretty good. Now once again, I'm going to hold the bow just like that. We're going to go back down on our leg and get our string on. Now, this bow is strung, but there's no weight on it whatsoever. Alright, now is the time to look at your timing. Alright guys, so we've got the bow strung. Now, I made it look easy. I really did. You can fiddle and mess around with this, and you get this one good and go down here, and then while you're working down here, these cables will pop off. It is a juggling act, okay? Make sure that you don't get frustrated. Just take your time, and you know, you'll get through it. It's really not that big a deal. So we're gonna tighten these limbs down and put some weight on our system. So I want to make sure that my timing system, you know, stays fairly loose, and more importantly, that it stays even. All right, I've got my 5/32 bolt loose. There you go. But since it's new, it's not moving real good. So let's go ahead and tighten this down. We're going to tighten it all the way until it stops. Alright? But one turn at a time. Now, as you're tightening this up, you want to keep an eye and make sure that your gaps stay the same, and make sure the timing of your cables stay the same. If you're ever tightening up limb bolts and you feel the limb bolt itself start to bind up, if it starts popping and cracking and making a bunch of noise, it's a good time to go ahead and stop. That means you didn't get enough lubrication on it, and if it's not lubricated when you're building a bow, imagine what it's going to be like, you know, 3 months or 3 years down the road after you've been bow fishing with it for a while. Now's the time to lubricate. Okay, now we're getting this bow, you know, in the top third of its weight range, and as you can see, we're starting to get a curvature in our power limbs. This is what we want. This is the whole reason why we had the bow shaved to 40 pounds. By adding preload to the limbs, there's more tension on the cams at, you know, at the first couple inches of the draw cycle. That makes the bow more efficient and makes it shoot harder with less weight. There we go. We're bottomed out right there. Before I mess with the bow too much, I want to make sure that all my cables are seated properly in the cam. And roll the bow over, make sure that everything's tracking good. All the ends of the cables are seated well. I'm going to set the bow up on its side. And I want to look and make sure my powers aren't rubbing my limbs on the outsides here and here. I want to make sure that my cable is properly seated in the hinge, both ends. Okay. Now I've got a little bit of a hinge gap right there. That's pretty good, but I would like to have just a little bit more. So here after a while we'll probably shorten this up. But let's go ahead and finish this bow off. Let's get some grips on here. Now, how to set your tiller on your bow is to measure from the string to the cam on both sides. I got 4.5 right there. And on this side, I've got 4 7/8. Okay. So what I need to do since this is the longer measurement, we need to tighten it up. Since everything's new, there we go. Alright, now I've got 4, and I'm going to call it 5/8. 4 5/8. Well, I made that look easy, didn't I? There you go. That's pretty close. Got a heavy 4 5/8 on both sides. So we'll lock our timing set down, but now's a good time to check and see where you're at. So since our timing set's tied down, I can see I've got just a little gap on one side and no gap on the other, but the adjustment of my timing didn't bottom out, and the bow is tuned and set for tiller, so that should be good. Go ahead and throw these grips on here. Oh, almost forgot. It is a good idea to put quite a bit of lubrication inside these grips. A handful of reasons. One, you're bending the grip, or you're bending the cables around the grip, all right, and around the riser. 2, these coated cables can make a little bit of noise. So there you go. Now, one thing I did not do, or I did not get, was my twist above the grip. I tried, but it fell apart on me. And I can see that the twist is below the grip. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take this apart. And it can become difficult to get this to twist in the right spot. There we go. Typically, once you got the grip on and it's snugged down, the cables will run side by side through the grip. That's why you want the twist to be up here in this channel. Okay, looks pretty good. One last thing that we need to tighten down. Now that the cables have even tension on them all the way around, the timing system is set, and the bow is bottomed out, don't forget to come right back here and tighten, whoop, wrong one. Tighten down the bolt that is in the top of the saddle. Tighten it down snug. One thing you can do, and I failed to do it here, was hold the bow up and look down the string and make sure that the outboard is straight. It's fairly straight. I'll check this one. Haven't tightened it down yet. So if it's not straight, yes, this one's not straight at all. So what I want to do, I need to twist it like this. So what I want to do is come right here and pull this side. There you go. I heard it move a little bit. And just twist it around until it gets straight. But we want to do this with this cable loose. That's getting pretty straight there. Once we got it straight, we'll go ahead and tighten it down. Well guys, there you have it. That's all that's involved in the complete rebuild of an Oneida Osprey. Now, no matter what Oneida you're doing, there's a lot of time, preparation, and thought that goes into rebuilding one of these bows. But as you can see, it is 100% worth it. From performance to looks to you know, how long the bow's going to last. Rebuilding one of these bows, you know, it's very rewarding. Now, it's not cheap, trust me. A paint job like this and all these pretty shiny machine parts cost money. But you know, you can do it one at a time. You can start with a new string and a set of cables. Get familiar with your bow. Take it apart, watch the video, and put it back together. Hey, that's how we all learn, right? Trial and error. If you ever get in a pinch, give me a call. We'll help you out. Drop it in the comment section. There's lots of guys out there that would love to help you. If you guys got Facebook, check out the Lever Lovers page. It's a whole group of guys dedicated to lever bows. Okay? As always, I'm White River Rambo. From all of us at Muzzy Bow Fishing and Bloodline Bow Fishing, we hope you enjoyed the video. Come on back and see me. Have a good one, guys. We'll see you next time. Thanks.